Hello, welcome back. So, this is the project of day 2 on the basis of the concepts that we learned today. So, let's have a look at the statement and requirements. In this project, you will create a simple student grade management system that allows a teacher to manage the grades of their student. The system will store the grades of multiple students in a two-dimensional array and provide various functionalities to view, update, and analyze the grade. Now, create a two-dimensional array to store the grades of multiple students. The array should have rows for student and columns for different subjects. Implement a menu-driven interface that allows the teacher to enter grades for each student and subject, view the grades of a specific student, calculate and display the average grade of each student, calculate and display the average grade of each subject, calculate and display the overall class average, allow the teacher to exit the system. So let's have a look at the logical understanding of this project and then we will implement in our compiler. So let's go. So let's have a look at the understanding of logic behind this project. So let's say they are saying that the column represent each subject. So we will say subject 1, subject 2, S3, and we will say student 1, student 2, and student n number of student and n number of subject. So we will keep it short because in order to understand the logic very well. So if you understand the accessing method, so if teacher types in that I want the data for each subject of student 1, or maybe I can say the average marks, what that means actually is the array, the main array, and we have a 0th index and the other things will be represented. Okay, so what do we have to do is that we will fix this for student 1 and we will just iterate over the other things. Then for example, if someone say if the teacher say subject 1 for all student, then we will fix the array. This will keep iterating and we will fix this if in case of column 1. In case of column 2 we will use I and we will say 1. So this was it for the subject and student. And another thing is average grade of each subject we can find from this, average grade of each student we can find from this. And also if we want to view the grades of a specific student, we can enter this logic that we will need the enter of row. So if someone says student 2, we will keep this as a row is student 2. So we will say that student 2 is a fixed, student 2 is here, and just iterate over the rest of the data and allow the teacher to exit. So we can use switch case, we can use if else as well. So now let's look at the implementation of these concepts in compilers. Let's have a look. So now let's start working on our project. So most of the time if I'm not explaining, I will just fast forward so that you guys do not get bored, but when it's time to explain some concept, I will explain that. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so first thing first is that we have to make two-dimensional array. So the column will represent our subjects and the rows will represent the student. So let's have a look. We will just consider 3 subjects for now. You can increase the number. Student is equals to 3 and 3 students. Okay, so just for simplicity of program and to understand the concept, you can exceed any by any number in these values. Okay, in integer we can have a float array, float data, and size of row is student, column is subject. Okay, so we have already discussed this. Now let's initialize each value by 0. So what we did so far is that we initialized every value by 0. So if someone does not enter any value, so it should not include any raw data in it. Okay, now let's move towards our menu. So now let's see what's going to take us where. Okay, so what do we have here? Enter grades for each subject and student. Okay, view the grades of a specific. Okay, so entering the grades. Okay, so we can use switch case statement. In this way you can learn that as well. So we will use do while loop. Why do while loop? Because we know in menu driven programs what do we do is use do while loop. So we have already discussed it in our topic discussion. Now it's time to implement. So we have different things, so I will just copy this whole menu from here and I will readjust that there. Okay, wait. Let me introduce a variable check. Okay, so we'll say check, and now let's put some checks here. Okay, so I will just zoom it in. Okay, so see out your input is equals to, or your choice maybe. Okay, that's it, or we can say that's it, and see in we say choice. So if I say I will just introduce another concept that is about break. So if I say if choice is equals to 1, then break. What this will do is it will take us out of this program. Okay, now let's go. Okay, we have some error. What's missing? Okay, we have done some syntax error. Where is the syntax error? Let's diagnose it. That's why you have to run it for each line. Okay, there is this one dot got out of the zone. Okay, now let's run. Choice was not declared in this. Not declared? Oh, sorry. Okay, so if I say 1, it will, what it will do? It will just your choice is equals to 1 and it break out of the loop. While 1. Now let's retest this. So if I say 1, it will print. If I say 0, it will go out the loop. So break is very useful keyword. You can use it to get out of the loop and also in switch case statements as well. And also there is another keyword. If you use continue, it will skip out the iteration as well. So now let's redesign everything, and we will use switch case statement in this program. So stay tuned for each and everything, and I will just fast forward the coding process now once again. Print something out here as well. We can say C out program ends here. Dot 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 dot. Okay, so now let's fast forward the process. Okay, so this is the logic, and we can say the concept. So this is the syntax for it. Now we will say case. In case the case 1, we have choice as case 1. So enter the grades for each student. We will enter grades for each student. So we will say C out enter the student number. Which one student? First student, second student, whatever it is. So we will introduce another variable. So let's just introduce that variable here. So if it is integer, num, we'll say C in num. Okay. So let's take the inputs for the student subject. So now we have prepared a switch case statement for what? Case for what? Enter the student number. So we will get the student number. We will fix that index as the student number here. So this is the row number. So if we say first student, so it will be 0. Okay, so one thing that is going to happen is that we have to C in, and we will put num minus 1. So that is going to be happening, because if someone says second student, they mean first index. Okay. Okay, after this we have to apply break. Why do we use break? Because each time you use one case, you have to break out of that case. Now we have done with case. Now case 2. What's the case 2? View the grades of a specific student. The same code, copy, we will just paste it out here. In case of, we say while the choice is not equals to 0. If it is equals to 0, then it is false, and we will get out of the loop. And we will use break here as well. Now let's test this. So if I want to say enter 1 for grades, enter the student number, I want to say 1. Marks of subject 1, I will say 22, 33, 44. So now say 2, enter the student number. So what was that? 1. And nice, sweet, it is working flawlessly. Okay, so now let's make the other things as well. Now what is remaining? We have got case 1, case 2. Okay, case 3, display the average grade of each subject. Okay, now for average, we say case 3. if you have got the marks, then you can calculate the average. So we can say float average is equals to 0, let's say. But now we will say C out. So now let's test this function and let's see will it work or not. Oh, I am so sorry. How we got out of the switch case statement, I don't know, but we got out. Cut this whole code, paste it here. Now it should work. Okay, so we have choice 1 to enter the numbers, enter the student number 1. So 20, 20 and 20. So now if I press average, it should give me 20. Should it give me 20? Okay, let's see. Enter the student number. Average is 20. Okay, so we are good here as well. So it is working flawlessly as well. So let's move on to another case. So what we did here in this situation is when I press case 4, we will get the subject number. So then we will fix the subject number here. You can see we have fixed the column number. Why? Because column represents subject. So we want to work with the same subject, but we want to change the data of students. So that's why we kept this I fixed, and we kept this we kept this I variable and kept this column number as fixed, and then we calculated the average. So let's just demonstrate that will it work or not. Now let's break out the loop. Okay, so let's try to run this program, and there were some minor issues with the program, and I will tell you by the end of this project because those are some little bit of plus points that you should keep in mind while coding in switch case statement. Okay, so let's start and demonstrate with it work or not. So for each student we should say that 1, and for student number 1 we will say 20, 20, 20. Okay, and we will say once again enter for grades. We will say student number 2 again 20, 20 and 20. Now let's take 3 to display those. If I want to display the average of student number 1, I will say student number 1. The average is 20, which is correct. And if I want to print, so this is 4, and I say subject 1, average marks in this subject is 13. Enter 1 for grades of each student. Okay, so we have got average marks is equals to 13 because student 3 has no marks, so that's why 20 divided by it was 13. So you got my point. And why it is showing 13 as an integer, because we have already discussed in the data types thing that we have to use float. Okay, so let's see minor changes. one float, and we will do this here as well. So float, and next thing we can do is to do this and that thing. Okay, so now press 5 to calculate and display the overall class average. So now let's print the class average. Case. Okay, so we have created the case in which the average of class will be printed. So let's have a look. So first of all, I declared a new array where each individual student marks will be stored. So this is the loop. So first of all, we are going to get to the student 1 with this. When we get to the student 1, it will be fixed with student 1. Okay, then student 1 will be fixed and the j will be moved. So that means the column is moving. So 1 subject, 2 subject, 3 subject, all the subject marks of student 1 is calculated and stored in total 1, and so on. Now each index contains the total marks of a individual student. Now what we have to do is to, okay, one thing else that we have got to do is we have to update total I should be equals to total, whatever the total marks are in total I, divided by number of subjects. So that is going to be float and subjects, because we have to find the average of subjects as well. So now each has the average of subjects, and after that we will calculate the average marks of. Now let's have a look. We will first enter the data. So we say 20, 20, 20. Oh, shoot. Student number is 1. Marks for subject 1. So 20, 20, 20. And also, once again, student number 2, 20, 20, 20. Now we have to calculate the we have got 3 students, I guess, so we will say no, we will not enter the third mark. So let's see. 4. Enter the subject number. 4 was what? Okay, so 4 was the subject number, so we will just, but 5 was the average of class. So the average of class is 31.118. So that is the average of class, and I hope so it is correct. Okay, if it is not, you can readjust everything, but I hope so it is going to be correct. Now we will use a default case. So we say default, anything other than case 1, 2, 3, 4, we will print out cout invalid value. Okay, and then and we will do this. Now let's run this program. So if I enter 8, so it says invalid value. If I enter 0, it will exit about system. Okay, so this was it for our project, and the plus point that I wanted to share was that you have to put after each case if you use brackets. So that is a good practice. Okay, so this was the project in which we created this whole thing. If you have any kind of query related to this project, you may ask from me. So until next day and next topics, I have to go. Peace out. Thanks.